Trail Talk here on LTTV. I'm Chris Forde, and I'm joined by Dr. Zahi Atallah, the president at Lincoln Trail College. Zahi, how are you?
Doing great. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Saturday is Autism Awareness Day, and we're going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to you, and that is the topic of autism. And the reason it's near and dear to you is that's your life.
That is. I am a person on the autism spectrum disorder. At 48, I've figured out a way to live with it, but in reality, this is a daily battle. Moreover, I'm a father of a child with severe autism, and I've watched how he has worked super hard every single day of his life to acquire the skills to work in the society, to the point where now I can't say that he's ready to live on his own, but he has made great strides forward.
Well, and obviously when we talk about autism, it's a spectrum, and there's a wide range of where you can fall on that spectrum. But for someone like you, you've been able to achieve some very impressive things. So it's not like when we talk about autism, we're talking about something that is so limiting that you can't really ever make anything of yourself.
Well, I was lucky to be born in the 70s as opposed to being born in the 60s or 50s and prior to that, where people on the spectrum were sent to a specialized facility and being locked up for their life. I'm a person who had to strive in order to learn to fit in society, to learn to communicate with others. It's a daily lesson, to be very bluntly honest about it. A lesson in humility and a lesson in observing and acquiring the skills. Things as simple as reading a room is rather of a hardship for me. Being able to modulate the tonality of my voice, and so on. And imagine how 50 years ago we labeled those people. Some very unique individuals have been able to thrive despite everything. Temple Grandin comes to mind, where despite the fact that her parents were told that she'd better be taken away, she was able to turn her life around and become one of the premier scientists in her field, in addition to being an advocate for autism awareness.
So you talk about some of those, the daily things that you deal with. How do you deal with those?
If you know somebody with autism, you know one person. So we all deal with it differently. For instance, the way I think about things, the way I formulate an understanding of what's going on is very much a mathematical equation that's constantly running in my head. So sometimes that equation is running in real time. Sometimes I'm lagging behind, and for people I look like I'm deer in the headlight. I see things in black and white, right and wrong, very, very much into that format. Not necessarily a right fighter, but seeing it as a simple duality for most social things. Now, if you go into other areas, while people can identify two paths, I can see multitudes of paths, and which makes conversations with me sometimes hard. Some people have called them circular. I don't intend them to be circular, but I'm trying to figure out how they're getting there, what they're trying to get to.
So for someone like me that does not have autism, I didn't know many autistic people really until I met you, in any kind of depth. What advice do you have for someone on how they can, be there for someone like you that can help you along in daily life?
One thing I've asked you and others here and every other place I've worked is to try to help me decipher the world, help me understand the nonverbal cues, help me understand the circumstance. And I also would beg of people to have a bit more compassion and willingness to slow things down to support the person who's on the spectrum. It's not a question of lack of intelligence. It's a question of deciphering the world through a totally different set of tools and set of languages. So again, the person on the spectrum is working super hard. People forget about that. The conversation is a hardship.
So you mentioned your son earlier, and talk about the difference between what you saw when you were his age and now as a parent, what you're seeing in terms of therapies and things there that are there to help support him.
Yeah, when I was growing up, being placed, there wasn't a spectrum. That didn't come about until the 21st century. To be diagnosed as being autistic was an extreme hardship because there was a person who held the tenet and the dogma, and he only recognized very few people. But then folks started realizing that the world of autistic individuals is far larger. There were studies that were done in the UK in the 50s that showed 1 in 15 children in neighborhoods of London could potentially be labeled as autistic. So when I was growing up, there wasn't an understanding, there wasn't a recognition, there wasn't an appreciation for the individual. There was more of what I mentioned earlier. Well, he's dumb, he's incapable, he's lazy. And that's quite a bit different now. It doesn't mean that all people understand it in all circumstances.
What advice would you have for parents of a child with autism?
There is no shame in being autistic. It's the life of your child. That child can develop, but they need you, they need your support. It's not about coddling them, it's not about enabling them, it's about empowering them.
Well, Zahi, we're about out of time today. Is there anything else you want to say about autism or Autism Awareness Day?
I wanted to thank you for taking this opportunity to highlight the struggles of individuals on the spectrum. And I wanted to thank you also for your friendship and your support at work. And again, it's about empowerment. It's about recognizing that our diversity is perhaps a strength.
Well, Zahi, I want to thank you for joining
Thank you.
us today, and thank you for your kind words as well.
Thank you.
If you enjoy Trail Talk, be sure and like this video, ring the bell, subscribe to our channel. When you ring the bell, you'll get notifications when we put more content here on YouTube, and certainly like us on our other social media channels as well. For Dr. Zahi Atallah, I'm Chris Forde. We'll see you next time on Trail Talk on LTTV.